Melian, the god of Maia, was the wife of Elohimgar, the mother of Lucian, and the queen of Doriath. Before the creation of the universe, she was of the same origin as Yavanna. She specialized in singing, and legend has it that she taught the nightingales to sing, and they would follow in Melian's footsteps. Melian served Vanna and Esti when she was in Vereniar, when she lived in the gardens of Lorene and tended the trees there. When the elf awoke on the shores of the lake, she set out for the mid-continent. She loved the deep shadows of the trees, and it was in the woods of South Elmos that she met the king of the Teleri, Elwi Singular. Elwi stopped in his tracks when he heard her singing, and then followed the song to meet her in a forest clearing. Elwi stepped forward and took her hand, and he was captured by the magic of Melian. So they stood, and the time passed, and the trees of South Elmos had grown tall and ghostly. During Elwi's disappearance, his brother Olwed took over his kingship and led some of his people westward, while others stayed behind to find him. So when Elwi and Melian came out of the woods, they gathered those who had stayed behind and founded their kingdom. At that time it was called Aglado. At the end of the first age of Mirko's captivity, Vereniar was in its heyday, and Beleriand was revitalized by the power of Melian. During that time, Melian, and Sing's daughter Lucian was born in the forest of Nildoris. After the second age of Mirko's captivity, Melian warned Singo that the years of peace were not permanent, and so Singo, with the help of the dwarves, built Minagoth, the palace of 1,000 grottos. Melian's memories of the beauty of Valinor were displayed in the halls of Minagoth, and Melian decorated them with brocade, making Minagoth the most beautiful palace in the Middle Kingdom. After Morgoth fled back to the Middle Continent, his orc army suddenly launched an attack on Bereliand, and the armies of Sinjar and Denethor wiped out the orc army almost completely. However, the elves of Osirian suffered heavy losses in the battle, and their leader Denethor died in battle on Mount Amon-Areb. Curdin and his elves were forced to take refuge in the protection of the walls of the ports of Phalos. So Sinjar gathered his people into the forests of Nildoris and region, and Melian used her power to build an invisible wall around them, the Melian Ring. No one could pass through the ring against her and Singa's will, unless they were more powerful than Melian. Since then, the area has been called Doriath, meaning the Guarded Kingdom. When the Noldor elves returned to mid-continent, Sinj and Melian befriended Finarfin's children, as Finarfin's wife, Iowyn, was an elf of the Teleri clan and a kinsman of Sinj. Galadriel, daughter of Finarfin, then lived in Doriath. Melian, Galadriel's close friend and mentor, received the news of the elven diamonds from the latter and told Sing. Since then Doriath has been protected by the Melian Ring, and has survived the Great Wars. Then years later, as Melian had predicted, the human Burn entered Doriath without the knowledge of either Melian or Singo, for the power that sent him into the land was fate, and not the power of Melian. When Burn was brought to Minagoth, Melian objected to Singo's decision to allow Burn to take the elven diamond, as she foresaw that it would ultimately lead to the destruction of Doriath, but Singo did not listen. Belen and Lucian then went to great lengths to obtain the diamond, but in a battle with the giant wolf Kahalos, Belen and Juan, the Hound of Vereniar, were killed, and Lucian's spirit left her body. However, her singing before the Mandusas moved this Vila, and so they regained their physical bodies in Doriath and moved to Osirian to live as humans. And the elven diamonds they had recaptured remained in Doriath, held by Sinj. After the Battle of the Rain of Tears, Sinj adopted Turin, who had traveled from Dorlaman. Turin later left Doriath for accidentally killing Zelos, but Singar forgave him. Beleg found his friend Turin and persuaded Turin to return, but Turin insisted on staying with his band. So Beleg says goodbye to Doriath and goes to be with Turin. Prior to this trip, Sinjar gives Beleg the black sword Anglical, while Melian gives him a large amount of lambeth. This shows that Melian cares for Turin so much that no elf has ever given this dry food to a human before, and has rarely done so since. However, she predicted that Anglico would be filled with the resentment of Yor the Forger, and thus would not remain with the sword wielder for long, and this prediction was later confirmed, as soon afterward Beleg was mistakenly killed by his own best friend while rescuing Turin. Turin was then led by Gwendol to the land of Sland, where he fought bravely, allowing his mother, Merwin, and his sister, Nenor, whom he had never met, to escape into Doriath. Melian and Sing honored them as guests, and so they lived there for a time, until eventually they set out in search of Turin, and the curse of Morgoth on the house of Hurin once again bore evil fruit. After Turin's fate led him to his death, his father, Hurin, was freed by Morgoth. He knew what had happened after his imprisonment because he had seen everything through Morgoth's eyes, but all the facts had been twisted by Morgoth. When he arrives in Doriath, he is rude and sarcastic to Singa, but Melian speaks up and tells the truth. Hurin realizes all that has happened in his eyes with Melian, whose power protects Doriath, where Morgoth's evil cannot affect Hurin. He eventually gave the necklace he had brought with him from Sland in the land of Nar, Nagahide, to Singo, and left Doriath. After receiving the Nagahide, Singa intended to set the elven diamond he held in his possession in a necklace, the greatest work of elven and dwarven artistry. The dwarven craftsman he hired coveted the necklace and the stone, and they killed Sinjar as they finished. Melian sat longingly beside Singa, remembering their past, when her power faded from the forests of Mildoris and region, and the Melian ringband ceased to exist. So she gave an account to Mablung of the placement of the elven diamonds, and has since disappeared from the mid-continent, returning to Valinor to mourn her lost husband and daughter in the gardens of Rorian, her past abode. Melian is the only known Maia to have been united with Iluvatar's children, and this union has left her bound to the form she has acquired. It is in this form, however, that she exerts her power over the things of the Midlands, and it is in this form that she passes the Maia bloodline on to elves and humans alike.